I've got a question for you. If we have multiple gateways in our environment, and one of those gateways in a log file indicates that there was a virus identified and stopped, so the machine wasn't infected, does that really mean there's an outbreak of that virus? Is it rampant in our environment? And the answer is one incident, probably not. However, if we had 7 different gateways, and they were all reporting that there's some viruses that were being stopped, or at least identified, and it all happened within 15 minutes of each other, that absolutely indicates a bigger problem. And in many companies, they use a SIEM, SIEM, a Security Information and Events Management System, and that can collect information from tons of devices, including log files and SNMP information, so it can help correlate and sift to the top those things that are most important that we need to be aware of. Well, in Checkpoint, there is a server service called SmartEvent. And this can be integrated as part of our management server, or it can be a standalone server. And what SmartEvent brings to the table, it can analyze our log files and help us identify those things which need our attention. Case in point, our policy for SmartEvent could say, if you see log entries for these types of events within a certain amount of time across the entire enterprise, through your correlation, go ahead and produce an event so that we can first of all be notified of that, and also we could actually have an action associated with that. So currently we're here in security policies with the access control policy selected. And if we expand these, one general rule is that we want to make sure that we're putting our most hit rules higher up in the list. Because if we have like 1,000 rules, it'd be a shame if we had to process 990 of them before we hit the final rule that matched. And one question might come up, well, how do we know exactly which rules are being hit the most? And there's an easy way to tell, and that is to add the hits column. So we could right click here on the column names, and then put a check in the checkbox next to hits, and that can give us an indicator about which rules are being hit the most often. What we want to do right now is we want to enable the SmartEvent server on our current management server. So we could click on servers and gateways and get to it that way, or here is an object that represents our manager right here in our rule base. So what we could do is, hovering over that, we could go ahead and click on edit right here, and that would also allow us to edit that manager object. So that brings up the general properties of that appliance. And for this lab, it's a manager and a gateway integrated as a standalone device with both functions riding on the same box. And so with general properties selected, we'd go to the management tab right here. And with management tab selected, we'd want to make sure that logging and status is enabled, which it currently is. And we'd also want to enable the SmartEvent correlation unit and the SmartEvent server, these two right here as well. And that gives us the benefits of the SmartEvent services. So with those boxes checked, we'll click on OK. And then we'll click on Publish. And now it's going to go ahead and initialize those services. Now it may take like 5 minutes. In fact, let's click on Gateways and Servers right here on the left. And with our checkpoint device selected, notice here we have a little notification for a moment. And if we hover over that, it indicates that some stuff is not quite yet running. That's because it's still initializing and coming up. So for the benefit of this lab, I'm going to time-lapse this about 4 minutes right now. And then we'll come back after it's fully initialized after about 4 minutes. Now that it's initialized, if we click here on Logs and Monitor, check this out. If we open up a new tab, I'll click on the plus symbol to open up a new tab. We have options on the top here for Open Log View, which is what we were looking at previously. We also have Open Audit Log View, and that's handy if we want to look back and see, hey, who made what changes? We can click on Open Audit Log View, and it will show us what changes were made and by which administrator, which is pretty darn handy. So let's open up another tab. And because SmartEvent is now running, we have these views that are available to us. Now, these are favorites indicated by the star here. And these views were created by Checkpoint. And we can change the favorites if we want to. We can create our own views. And we can work with those by clicking on the Views option right here on the left-hand side. So the views selected in the favorites column, here's the stars that indicate our favorites. And if we wanted to add another favorite, we could go ahead and simply take like high bandwidth applications. We can click on it once. That can tell us down here about that view, and if we want that to be one of our favorites, we can go ahead and click on the star, which makes it now one of our favorites. We can also open to that view by clicking on that view and then clicking on Open, or double clicking on the view here, and that would open it as well. And this view is showing us top categories and top applications and sites based on traffic. And if we want to drill down into any of these events, for example, this one right here for PayPal, we could right click on that, and then from the drop down, click on Drill Down, and that would take us to the details regarding that application. In this case, it's PayPal. And to close these tabs, we simply use the X on the tab to close those tabs. And if we wanted to open up a new tab, we simply click on the plus symbol And now we have 5 favorites instead of 4 by default because we added the high bandwidth applications. The general overview is pretty handy as well. If we click on this view right here for general overview, it'll open that up for us. And the general overview can provide a great bird's eye view of what's happening in the network. Now, in the event that we're at a computer and we're not running Smart Console, but we still want to get to this information for the various views, here under Logs and Monitor, when we open up a new tab, down here on the left, we have a hyperlink for SmartView. And if we click on the link for SmartView, what that does, in effect, is open up a new browser window on the admin PC. It goes to https:// and then the IP address of the server. In this case, it's both the management server and the SmartEvent server running on the same appliance, /SmartView. And what that does, it gives us the ability to see the same type of information. In fact, it even looks like this, but doing it through a browser as opposed to having the full Smart Console installed on the PC the admin's currently at. So let's do it. So under External Apps, let's click on the link for SmartView. On my admin PC, my default browser is Chrome, so that's what it's using. It goes to the URL of the server /SmartView. We'll log in here as admin. We'll supply the lab password. Click Login. And this is dropping us to the general overview view. If we want to open up a new tab, check this out. We'll click on the plus for a new tab. And here we can open up the logs. We can open up the audit view. We also have all the same views that we'd have as if we launched this through the Smart Console utility. In fact, if we bring this browser window over a little bit, if these two look similar, that's because they are. So this is the browser version, and this is the flavor that came as part of Smart Console. So they both include the ability to have favorites and go to the various views and create reports. We can also schedule reports as well. So I'm going to go ahead and log out of the browser version of SmartView by clicking on the admin icon and then clicking Log Out. Then I'll close that browser window, and now we're back to Smart Console under Logs and Monitor. One other aspect is if we want to tweak or tune our policy for SmartEvent, we can do that by going down to the bottom left-hand corner under External Apps and clicking on the link for SmartEvent Settings and Policy right here. And that'll open up a separate window just for that. And this is where we would both view and modify our SmartEvent policy. So if we expand part of this, for example, let's take a look at Virus Alert. It's got one event it's going to create based on a certain number of virus outbreaks happening within a certain period of time. We can click on that for more details. Or if we look at Informational and click on Policy Installation, if we wanted to modify this and have the severity regarding a policy installation be critical, we can specify it here. And then we could also add automatic reactions. So if we click on the little ellipsis or more button here next to automatic reactions, and we wanted to add a new reaction, the responses could include sending an email or an SNMP trap, or block the source, block event activity, or run an external script, assuming based on that event occurring, we wanted that action to happen. So I'm going to click on cancel there. And because we have made a change, it used to be informational, we called it critical. We go ahead and click on the icon for save up here in the upper left. It also indicates that for those changes to be applied, you must install the event policy. So we'll click on yes to go ahead and install the event policy now. In this Nugget and Lab, we've taken a look at how we can use SmartEvent to help us with correlation and with some additional and better views of what's actually happening in our networks. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.